What's up, YouTube? Minnie Minchino here, and welcome back to another Minnycast. For those who are new, this is the weekly podcast vlog type show where I share with you some updates and talk about something for a little bit. And speaking of weekly, I'm sorry there was not one last week. My sleep is still very much off, and I was feeling awful last weekend, so I didn't end up recording, and I almost didn't end up recording this weekend, so that's a little bit awkward. Thankfully I didn't have any updates or anything like that, but I did miss out on the topic I was going to talk about. But I ultimately decided to not do last week's topic anyway, because I'm just like, I feel like I've tackled it before, so it's fine. We're still going to do the other ones I have leading up to Halloween, so there you go. Also, I'm going to stream Splatfest for Halloween on Twitch, so that'll be a thing. Also, I'm thinking about getting restream set up so that I can still stream on YouTube and stuff, because as much as I do like streaming on Twitch, I do miss the activity, like the abundance of activity on my actual YouTube channel. So I'm going to consider working on that and do both and see how that works out. Because I don't want to switch back to YouTube, but I still want to stream on YouTube, I guess. I don't know. I'll work on it, is the thing at this point. And, yeah. So, I'm sorry that I'm a little bit all over the place, because, like, the sleep deprivation is, deprivation, if I can speak, kind of really sucks. So that's kind of a thing. But I wanted to kind of have a little bit of a chat about spoopy moments in video games. I don't often talk about video games on the Minnycast, despite the fact that it's like very, like in the background is always Minecraft footage. By the way, this is actually an attempt at a recreation of an old house I used to live in. So that's kind of been like the general theme for some of these anyway. So that's a thing. But anyway, I don't normally talk about video games on the Minnycast, mainly because I do want this to be something different from the rest of my content, because obviously the rest of what I do is dedicated video game stuff. In fact, the only reason there's Minecraft footage at all is just for the sake of having something for you guys to watch. Otherwise, there wouldn't really be anything in the background. Kind of like how the series started, actually. But I felt that having something to watch would be nice. But yeah, I figured today will be the exception to that, and we're going to talk about some spoopy moments in games. And I made some notes like 5 minutes ago. Planning! And I have a list, like a slight list of a couple moments, and I think a few of them I can mesh together. Like there's several from some Zelda games, and there's a couple Pokemon ones, and there's one specifically from Mario 64, and I'm sure you can guess which one that is. So this is all from stuff that I've played. I know there's a ton of other scary moments out there, like scary bits in games and stuff. And chances are either I haven't thought of them for today, because again, I made this like 5 minutes ago, and or I just haven't played the game, and I wanted to keep it to stuff that I've experienced personally, like firsthand, rather than something through a Let's Play. Just so I can have my own personal story with it, I guess. I don't know. But we might as well get started here. So I guess I'll start off with, in my opinion, the least scary, and of course this is all subjective, so maybe none of these are scary to you, and I find, for me, I find scary to be, like, what I find scary is more of, like, a conceptual thing. So it's like, I may talk about certain things that aren't, like, outright scary, but, like, it's kind of, like, they're kind of spoopy if you think about them, kind of thing. Like, for example, it wasn't on this list, but, like, for example, that one scene in Pokemon X and Y where, you know, Lysander actually launches the ultimate weapon and kind of almost destroys the entire world. Like, as it's presented in the game, it's like, oh crap, it's a tense moment and stuff like that, but it's not outright scary. But it's like, if you think about it, if you really think about it, if that shit was happening and you were witnessing that, you would be terrified. That would be terrifying. Like, if it was actually happening to you, kind of thing. And that's the kind of thing that I find scary more so than, you know, say like a jump scare kind of thing, which is startling, which I guess is a form of scare, hence the term, I guess. Look at me trying to talk like an expert. I'm no expert on anything, but I don't know, just a startle to me that, you know, loses its power over time, like say the haunted piano from Super Mario 64, which is the actual thing I wanted to launch into. It's scary. Like, it does jump out at you with its gnashing piano teeth. It's weird, it's scary, and like, yeah, again, if that were to be a thing that you'd witness in real life, you'd be terrified too, most likely. But like, I mean, as far as the game itself goes, like, it's just more of a jump scare. It just comes at you a little bit. It doesn't chase you down beyond that room. I mean, it can't really. And even then, something you can sneak past it if you know what you're doing, kind of thing. So it's not super scary to me. Again, if it was translated into real life, I would never enter that house, for any reason. So, you know, I mean, I've stayed away from places IRL that aren't known to be haunted just simply because they're either sketchy looking or appear to be abandoned. And all kinds of stuff can happen in abandoned places. So, fuck that, honestly. And yes, this is a giant ramble, and that's pretty much that. So we're gonna actually, speaking of abandoned places, jump straight onto Pokemon Black and White 2. There's actually some terrifying stuff in that game. Aside from Getsus literally almost killing you. Like, legit, he's like a millimeter away from stabbing you in every direction with icicles. So, you know, legendary Pokemon icicles. So, you know, they're not normal icicles. Those things are totally gonna, you know. So he was millimeters away from impaling you, basically. And that is startling in and of itself, especially for a Pokemon game, if I'm honest. Even though it doesn't get graphic and stuff like that, that's intense. I mean, there's an entire city getting frozen, which is concerning in and of itself. But you have, in my opinion, the creepiest bit, the Strange House, which is a new addition to that game, and it's basically the new Lavender Town, or at least the new Lavender Tower, Pokemon Tower, whatever it's called. And it's like, you go in there, and it's like, okay, it's a creepy abandoned house, basically. And that's already bad enough. Like, you're just like, okay, that's concerning. I mean, there's people, like, looking around, presumably looting the place, who knows? But you get the music, and the music sets the tone perfectly. It's droney. It's got a spoopy little boop 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 in the background, like that little. It doesn't even really have a melody to speak of. It's just atmosphere. And then you see some furniture shaking around, and sometimes when you go into other rooms and come back, it's moved around. And in the, you know, in the music track, you can hear the sound of stuff getting dragged around and things like that too. So it's like, it really does capture the mood of this just creepy, abandoned just house. And then you start figuring out what happens, because you see the ghost of a little girl talking about stuff and hinting about Darkrai and things like that. You find books in the basement that hint toward presumably this child's father or both their parents doing some research about you know, sleep, and doing sleep experiments with Hypno and other things like that to try to save their kid that's been ensnared in this never-ending nightmare. And of course, this kid is lonely and terrified and has died and is now in a lonely, terrified state. So you are entrusted with the Lunar Wing, which, if you guys weren't aware from Gen 4, was also used to save another kid from a never-ending nightmare kind of deal. So it's that same deal. But you have to return it to Chrysalia rather than obtain it from Chrysalia. In order to let the kid find peace, because like, well, they got this, and it was too late for me. Like, I'm already gone, so it'd be nice if it could be returned, kind of thing. And I guess that poor little girl is able to find peace that way. But it's just kind of creepy. Like, I mean, again, for a Pokemon game, it's surprising. It's certainly not the scariest thing to ever pop up in a video game, for sure. But I mean, for what it is, it's a little bit unnerving, if I'm honest. And to be honest, what does it for me more so than, you know, the ghost story and stuff is just literally the atmosphere, like the music and stuff like that. Like, that's absolutely what does it for me. Speaking of music, though, another bit from both Black and White and Black and White 2 is N's room in Ghetsis' castle. So in Black and White, it's basically like a child's room. It's got like, you know, it's got like a basketball net, like a kind of semi-basketball court, a freaking half pipe of all things, all kinds of other, like, you know, toys and blocks and stuff just kind of scattered about. When you first encounter that room, like when you first go in there, it plays N's theme, which is just this unnerving music box sounding thing. And of course in that room it sounds more music boxy and stuff. And it's just like the room itself just seems pretty unassuming until you realize it belongs to a grown-ass man that was manipulated and essentially abused for the majority of his life. And you realize, that's my phone going off, and then you realize, you know, this person in question has been manipulated in order to fulfill a very specific task that involves this kid's father essentially taking over the world. So that, I mean, it's a little grandiose, but it's a little bit concerning. So that in and of itself is bad enough. Then you get to Black and White 2, where you're eventually led to N's castle by Azorork, I believe. And you end up in that room, and I believe N himself talks to you and stuff and things. But that room, like the rest of the castle, is in a state of, we'll say, disrepair. And, you know, everything's still there. It's just, you know, it's darker. Everything's, you know, the walls and floors have cracks in them. Everything's, you know, just kind of dirty, falling apart, basically. But it's essentially the same room until you hear the music, which, again, is N's theme, all music boxy, but that music box is broken and unnerving, and it's not a good time. So, like, every so often it'll slow down, it'll sometimes speed up, it's out of tune, it's honestly, that music in and of itself is the most disturbing thing about that room, because, like, otherwise it's just an abandoned room. You don't really find anything in there. There isn't anything different about it other than the fact that it's falling apart. But it's eerie. It's super eerie, and, like, it's just a relic of a horrible person doing a horrible thing to their kid, honestly. And that, to me, again, is more disturbing than the scene itself. So, yeah, that's some stuff, man. That's some stuff. Let me look at what else I've got written down over here. So I basically, all the rest of this is stuff from The Legend of Zelda. So, I mean, I'll gloss over this because, I mean, it's kind of the entire game. So Majora's Mask. Not even the mask itself, But like the game itself, there's some creepy shit in there. So like, few examples. We'll do the most obvious being a canyon and everything about that, because you know it's themed after the undead and stuff like that. So I won't go too deep into that, just because in and of itself, like, there's plenty to talk about, to be fair. But like, it's kind of the obvious pick. And it's like, yes, that whole scene with that little girl and her dad and stuff, like, that's spooky. Her dad literally just became an undead monster and stuff, and like, you heal him and everything's cool after that and things, but it's like, this little girl is trapped in this land of the undead, absolutely terrified, and alone. So that is already kind of a thing. And also, like, the undead are slowly approaching her house until they get the whole music box thing powered up again and stuff like that. But other parts of the game, like, we're talking Deku Palace. Like, they're threatening to literally boil a monkey alive because they think he kidnapped the princess. And it's just, that's less spooky and more just, oh, that's really concerning. That's just a little bit intense. Considering the fact that they were wrong, so they were about to murder an innocent being for essentially nothing. And I mean, even that, the whole fact that the swamp has been basically poisoned and stuff like that, like, that's concerning. Gorons, absolutely frozen, freezing to death, and, you know, slowly dying off, to the point where their hero died off because of the cold, if I'm not mistaken, and, you know, so did several others, presumably, and stuff, and that's concerning. And mind you, all this stuff in the game is basically being caused by the Skull Kid and Majora's Mask. And that's, you know, Majora's Mask is a powerful thing. I mean, then you've got, I mean, the fact that if you don't do things in time, the apocalypse literally happens. So, I mean, again, conceptually, that's a little bit terrifying. I would not enjoy that scenario one bit, and I don't think you would either. So that's just a few examples from that game. Like, there's a lot of like spooky shit. It's a very dark game compared to most Zeldas. Highly recommend. It's a good time. Jumping over to Ocarina of Time, however, I mean, you've got the bottom of the well. Especially if you're playing like the Virtual Console versions or like the original N64 versions and stuff. You don't get it so much in the 3D version. It's definitely dumbed down by comparison, as much as it does look better. I mean, it's very evident that that place was a torture chamber, and you can see the dried blood everywhere and stuff like that. You know, people suffered there. Criminals or not, people suffered there, and it's kind of fucked up, if I'm being entirely honest. People suffered there. There's undead hanging around. Again, the blood. That's another thing, which is just, it's just adds to the creepy, man. Like, it just confirms the fact that not so great things happened here, and you know, Hyrule's got some dark past going on. Honestly, everywhere do, but it's like, dang, this country basically that you've idealized throughout the game is it's got some stuff going on, if that makes any sense. Not to mention the weird ass spirit in the Shadow Temple, Bongo Bongo. Basically Haunter with a body, let's be honest, and he's stuck to the ceiling, so he's like hanged or something and decapitated, and it's a little bit messed up. It's a little bit messed up, if I'm being entirely honest with you. Then there's all the invisible things, and the fact that, like, the temple itself tries to deceive you. It's not a difficult temple by any means, but I mean, again, conceptually, like, that's a thing. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, also you have the dead hands, I mean, those in and of themselves, like, I mean, come on, you're in a room whose walls and floors are basically made of skulls. If you look closely, you can actually see that, and it's that in and of itself concerning. You walk in, there are these creepy hands just sticking out the ground, and once they grab onto you, this grotesque, just abomination that honestly looks like it's been bruised and beaten for so long just comes out and tries to eat your face or something, and it's got like a snake jaw, which is just terrifying, honestly. Like, the whole thing is just terrifying. And it's like, once you finally kill it, it just stays on the ground longer than most enemies and just twitches for a while, and it's like, nope. I don't think that's okay. I do not think that's okay. And I don't know, it's just like to me, like, it's creepy. It's not as scary as like some of the other conceptual things to me, but it's still creepy, and it all just contributes to this tortured place that it's just buried under the graveyard, I guess. And it's like, of course it's in a graveyard. Where else would it be? I have one more or two more here from Twilight Princess, actually, and then I'll probably end it because I can't think of anything else at the moment. And again, there's several others out there, and I'm sure you guys have your own stories, so feel free to share them. So I thought of the first time Link transforms into Wolf Link in Twilight Princess. Again, when you're watching it, it's not outright scary, but it is unnerving, and I would think that if I was Link, I'd be pretty terrified to, one, know that all my loved ones have been, effed up. You just saw one of your best friends get / potential love interest get basically kidnapped by some monsters, and they knock you out. So you wake up going like, oh shit, how far did they get? I gotta get them back. You run after them, only to end up running face to face with, or like basically running straight into this like weird mysterious wall that just kind of appeared there, only to then get dragged into that and transform into a completely different species. That's a lot to take in. Like, let's be honest, if you went through that, I mean, I personally would probably like have a friggin' fit at the very least, because like, 1 second you're human, next thing you know you're just a dog imprisoned somewhere that you've never seen before, and just now this weird little imp thing is just like taunting you and just being super vague about everything, and you're just like, what the hell is happening? And it's more fear in that it's confusing and unnerving to the characters, and it's like, I do feel like Twilight Princess does establish that pretty well, as much as the beginning of the game is kind of slow and drags out a little bit. I feel like, I do feel like it does like establish that, Link is his own person in this world, and this is the life he leads. It's a very simple, like, I'll just, I help out my community kind of life, only to realize, like, hey, my community just got fucked up, and now I'm here. Am I ever gonna be back to normal? Am I gonna be able to do something about all this and help out? What's happening? Why is this happening? Where the hell am I even? It's just all, like, it's just fear compounded by confusion kind of thing. And, like, I feel that. Like, that's a lot. That's definitely a lot. And, I mean, throughout the game itself, there are some dark moments. I mean, the Goron's leader, I forget his name. I want to say Darvis? I feel like that's his name. Like, him getting basically possessed by one of the Fused Shadows. The Fused Shadows themselves. Zant almost killing Midna, basically, and trapping Link in his wolf form. Death Sword. There's a lot of things, There's a lot of things in that game that are just a little bit unnerving, but I think the one that surprised me the most out of all of these moments is that moment at the end of the game. Spoilers, by the way. Spoilers. At the very end of Twilight Princess, during the final battle, after you've basically delivered the final blow to Ganondorf, it kind of cuts to Zant just kind of staring into your soul. And when I first saw that, it was actually in someone's top 10 video, and I thought they just sort of spliced that clip together that way. And I was like, okay, that's unnerving, right? And then his neck snaps. And then the sound it makes is just, ugh. And then Ganon dies. But, like, I genuinely thought that was not part of the game. I genuinely thought that was something that was edited in. And then when I saw a Let's Play the game and then eventually did it myself, I realized, like, no, that is legit, like, raw footage right there. That is what Nintendo themselves put into the game, is this character just basically a jump cut to this character snapping their own neck in order to end someone else's life. That's unnerving. That's unnerving. It sent shivers down my spine a little bit. Again, not like an outright, like, oh god, I'm scared kind of reaction. It was just more like, oh god. Yeah. Okay, sure. And to me, that's kind of the stronger fear than just a startle. Because again, a startle, like, I guess that one could count as a jump scare though too. Like that one's like a multi-layered jump scare, I feel like, because it has some meaning behind it and some symbolism behind it. So it's like if you think about it, it only gets worse. It only gets worse kind of thing. So it's like you have the initial startle and then there's the deeper layers to it, and it's pretty good. That's a pretty good scare. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's a pretty dark. It's pretty dark. But yeah, you guys, I feel like I've rambled enough about spoopy moments in games. I definitely had a lot more to say about them than I thought I did. But what are some scary moments in games that you guys would like to talk about? I would love to hear what you have to say, so feel free to share them in the comments down below, or go to the Minchino Clan Discord. There's a Minnycast topic thread in there. You can spout your thoughts about whatever episode you like. But yeah. Excuse me, I'm yawning. That completely just interrupted my flow there. I'm so sorry, you guys. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end it off for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to check out any other series I have on this channel. Also feel free to follow me on Twitch and join the Minchino Clan on Discord. Links to all that will be in the description, as well as links to a couple friends of mine, so definitely check them out as well. And until next time, Minnie out. We're gonna be chatting about something that, we're gonna be chatting about a creature my cousin made up when I was 3 next week. So, that'll be fun.